It was Christmas, about 2 years ago. And I want to talk to you about my mother, my mum. So when I was a child, my mum would give me pocket money, and she would give me only 1p or 2p every time and every week. And it's not a lot of money. You can only buy maybe one sweet or 2 sweets. And I would want a new toy, and my parents would be like, well, Jenny, 100 pennies make a pound. You need to save up. And I'd be like, but I don't want to save up. I want to eat my sweets, and I want my toys. So they would just keep on telling me 100 pennies would make a pound. And now that I'm older, I'm still not very good at saving money, but I've noticed something. I've noticed this about the open source community, about how it's lots of little contributions that makes the bigger project. So if we look at something that's happening to WordPress very soon, the WordPress API, and we look at how many contributions to that project, just this very small section of WordPress that's coming out, it's quite interesting. There are 1,864 commits of code to WordPress API, and this is the next big thing to hit WordPress, the next big feature. Out of that, it was 500 pull requests to date, 610 issues and bugs that were marked on the GitHub repo, and all that work that will go to 23% of the internet is made by 51 people. That's it, 51 people. I think we have about 51 people, if not more, in this room. That's not a lot of people. And yet these people are affecting 23% of the internet. Your tiny contributions can affect that 23%. So I want you to put your hands up. How many people here have used WordPress before? Okay, some people are shy. And how many of you have contributed back to WordPress? Put your hands right up. Look around, everyone. That's not a lot of people. Those people have affected 23% of the internet. That's a big deal. So I understand contributing to WordPress is quite scary. I had lots and lots of excuses. These are some of them. I don't want to code when I come home. If you're a developer and you've been working 9 to 5, working all the time, and then you come home and then you have to sit in front of a computer and do more code, kind of looks like work, but you don't get paid for it. I kind of like getting paid for work. So, I understand it's hard to try and split what is the passion that you have for the project with your 9 to 5 work. So I understand this. Or maybe you're not a developer. Maybe you feel that you have to be a developer to contribute back to WordPress. That's not true. Maybe you feel like you don't know anything. You only know a tiny bit of WordPress. How could you help shape WordPress? I understand this. There's even a name for this. I don't know what to do. This is probably the one that I hear the most. You want to contribute back to WordPress, but you don't know where to start. That's a good excuse. What's your excuse? Does anyone care to share? No? Okay. So I had all these excuses. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I could do anything. And then in 2013, WordCamp London happened. So WordCamp London and Manchester are quite far away from each other. And it's very expensive to be in London, and I'm from the north, so it's a lot of effort to travel down south. But I noticed that this WordCamp especially had their first contributor day in the UK. And I thought, okay, well, I want to contribute to WordPress. Maybe if I go, I will learn about it. So that's what I did. And when I was there, what inspired me the most was that I realized everybody can contribute to WordPress. It doesn't matter what excuse you have in your head right now. You can contribute to WordPress. And if anyone after my talk believes that you still cannot, come and see me. I will find you something to do. So let's talk about how we can contribute to WordPress. First of all, there's a part of the internet where all the contributions to WordPress has a home. It's called make.wordpress.org. You'll hear me say this a lot. It's where all the information is. And don't get me wrong, when you first go to it, there's a lot of information. But what you'll see there is actually the WordPress project is broken up into different groups. So we have lots of different groups, and you can join different groups depending on what kind of work you want to do, what things you want to learn. And throughout all these groups, there are common tasks. So things like testing if an issue is a bug. How many times you thought something was broken in WordPress, but it was just broken on your computer? Checking if someone who has made a patch, which is just a little file, and it's just like a nail plaster that you put on the code, checking if that plaster works. Or helping to build new features. Everyone complains that WordPress cannot do this, cannot do that, cannot do this. And I always say, well, build a plugin, create a new feature. So the teams that I'm going to talk about, the groups, I'm going to quickly go through them. These are the general big groups. And then within those groups, there'll be like smaller groups where they are concentrating on one particular section of WordPress. So first one, accessibility. The accessibility team makes sure that WordPress is accessible to everyone. And this is not just a WordPress thing that you download onto your servers or you're using for your blogging, but it's also for the websites that we actually are creating. So Make is accessible to everyone. It means that, especially for Europeans, that WordPress is aiming to adhere to the EU laws, because with the EU laws, we all have to make sure everything's accessible, and etc. And it's not just about the people who are blind or who are deaf. It's also about the people who have motor injuries. So maybe they cannot use their hand anymore. Maybe they cannot use a mouse. Imagine how you would use WordPress without a keyboard. People have to do this on a daily basis. And we have to make sure that WordPress can actually be used by those people. Core. So when people think about contributing to WordPress, this is the place they probably think about the most. The core, where most of the developers are in there coding to make WordPress better, making sure that the bugs are fixed that have been fixed, making sure that you test things. Core actually is a really nice place if you are not a developer and you want to learn, or if you just want to test things. We need testers and people who are very good at breaking things. How many people here are very good at breaking things but not knowing how to fix it? I am definitely one of those people. I know how to break things, and sometimes I don't know how to fix it. That's why I'm not a freelancer. So if you are one of those people who knows how to break WordPress, then please help try and break WordPress. Write it up so that people who can fix it will fix it. And that means that WordPress will be a stronger platform for everybody. Design. WordPress is known and celebrated for its beautiful back end. But it didn't get there by accident. Someone designed it. And it has gone through many iterations. In fact, it's going through another one right now. There's going to be some new color changes coming to WordPress backend. There are people who check the user experience of using WordPress and modify it and make suggestions and discuss how is it that we make WordPress easier to use than it already is. Mobile. How many people here have used the mobile app? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not many people. If you didn't know, there is a mobile app from WordPress.org, and you can connect it to any WordPress website that you own, which means that you can actually write and blog and do edits on the move using your phone. It's a fantastic way to work. The only thing is, the mobile team is very, very small, and they are building both the iOS, the Android, and the Windows applications. So it's a very small team doing a lot of work. They need people who know how to write iOS apps, Android apps, and Windows apps. Or if you want to learn how to write these apps, it's a good place to go and learn from these people and help them at the same time. But they also, again, need testers and breakers and designers and UX experts and even just users to tell them what is it that would make a WordPress app useful to you. Polyglots. Now, I'm hoping everyone here can at least understand 2 languages, otherwise I'm talking in an alien language to you. So it's no surprise when I say polyglots is a very natural place for Europeans to be in because we have so many different languages that we all speak. Just over 6 months ago, WordPress 4.0 came out, and it was the first time that locale downloads surpassed English downloads. That means collectively, Japanese, French, Spanish, all the other languages, there were more downloads of those than just normal English, the American English. When we look at your local native language, Slovak, I checked this morning. Your Slovakian WordPress 4.1.1, which is obviously the latest version of WordPress, the language pack is only 97% complete, which means there's 3% of WordPress not being translated. Now, I'm not sure whether that is because those strings need to be in English, so they're not being translated, but I don't speak Slovak, so I can't check. So it would be great if the Slovakian community could make sure that your WordPress locale was kept up to date. And it's not just about the WordPress language pack either. We've been told that themes and plugins are going to have locales on them, that WordPress.org itself is getting internationalized. This means that there will be more strings to translate. Imagine translating the whole of WordPress.org, the amount of content in there. We need people to help with this project. Support. Now, if you haven't noticed, there is actually a support table outside. So if you need support with your local WordPress projects, then go and see them. But support is also available online. In the forum rooms, which you can find at this URL, wordpress.org/support, and also on the IRC channel, which is real-time support in the WordPress channel. We need people to go in there and answer questions. We need people in there who maybe you don't feel like you don't know much, but if you go in the support channels and see the questions that are being asked, sometimes it's as simple as, how do I find X? And maybe you've already found this place, so all you have to do is just reply to that question. That's it. It's one of the most simplest ways to help the WordPress project as a whole by helping each other, but it's very, very easy. Anyone can do this. Documentation. How many people have used the codec before? Quite a few people. So if you don't know what the codec is, it's where all the guides of how to use WordPress, how to install WordPress, how to blog, how to make a page, everything is in there. Somebody had to write that. it's not automated, and documentation is really important. It helps other people. So if you're very good at writing and you know how to do something, then documentation is a really good location to be in. Themes. How many people here have gone on the WordPress theme repo and downloaded a theme? Yeah, there's a lot more of you. So the theme team do not make themes. Just keep that in mind. The theme team reviews themes. So what that means is every time anybody in the world creates a theme and wants to upload it to wordpress.org, it has to go through a review. It has to go through a security review. It has to go through some checks. And if you want it to be an accessible theme as well, it also has to go through an accessible review as well. The theme review team manually does all that. All the latest WordPress themes are reviewed by humans up and down the world. In fact, they check links to make sure no one's put any dodgy links in their themes, to make sure that we don't get backdoors into your WordPress site. And that's a really important job. If you're somebody who has wanted to think about making a theme or wants to learn about what it is to get a theme on the repository, then the theme review team is a really good team. Meta. So I call Meta kind of like the fairy godmothers of the whole of WordPress.org. What they do is they make tools for every other team. So maybe the support team says, I need some new help, I need a new button to make my life easier as a support person. And the Meta team will create that for them. They look after everything on WordPress.org. Training. So if you don't know, this is quite a new team, and what they're doing is they're writing training manuals and workshops for anyone in the world to download and use. So if you're thinking about doing workshops or training for your clients, or if you don't know how to do something, then they're slowly trying to write every single possible workshop that you could ever think of and actually upload it to be out there, open source, for anyone to take. So if you have training manuals from work, why don't you give them back to the community so that they can be used by other people? WordPress TV. I noticed today we have a camera here. WordPress TV is where you get to watch all the WordPress videos from all over the world. So not only from this WordCamp, but from other WordCamps and other meetups also. The thing about WordPress TV is that a lot of them are in English or in other languages. And it would be really, really great if we could subtitle them so that anyone in any language could watch and listen and read what was going on. So if you can, join the WordPress TV team and subtitle English talks into Slovak and Slovak talks into English and any other language you know. Next, community. Now, this is something that I am very passionate about. Remember those excuses? Remember the one that said, I don't want to do work when I get home? That was my favorite excuse. And what I realized as a developer was that just because I code in my office and at work doesn't mean that I have to code for the WordPress project. In fact, what I usually do is go and hang out with people. I mean, I think it's the best job ever because all I do is socialize with people and drink with people. I couldn't ask for a better job. And I get to meet people, and it's all about finding what you guys need and want from the project. So I know there's two user groups in Slovakia. There's one here in Bratislava and one in, I'm going to say this wrong, I'm so sorry, Koshitan, is that right? Yeah, sorry, I did try. Koshita. So there's only two in your whole entire country. I'm not sure how far you have traveled today, but in England, we have user groups and meetups that are only 30 minutes away from each other because we're lazy and we like to go and meet up, get in a taxi, and then go home and not have to drive. So if you have traveled very far today, maybe think about starting a user group or a meetup in your local city or town. And if you're not thinking about doing one with people in real life, maybe do one offline. Do a Google Hangout with 10 people from this room, just to talk and chat and see what problems you are having with each other, and with WordPress, rather. We have a saying in the UK, 2's company, 3 is a crowd, and 4 is a party. What I'm trying to say to you is that your user group, your meetups, do not have to be big. Even 2 people is great, because that's one extra person who understands and that you can talk about WordPress to. Another way is to speak, like I am doing right now. It's scary coming to a different country where I know you all speak English, but it's not your native language. But you all speak Slovak. Why don't you share the knowledge between yourselves? Many of your colleagues have already done this today. For me, sharing knowledge is about allowing somebody else learn from the mistakes you just made and making sure they don't do the same mistakes. They do different ones, so you can learn from them. Let's learn from others what we don't know and share what we do know, because there's so much in WordPress and so much on the internet, we cannot consume it all. And the best thing about speaking is nobody, absolutely nobody, can tell you your experience was wrong. They weren't you. They didn't go through what you went through. They cannot tell you you are wrong. All they can do is give you a different opinion, and you can think about it. You can start small. Share with your friends, your family, and your colleagues at work. And then you can go to your user groups after you set them up, so there's more in Slovakia, and start sharing at a user group. And then you come to a WordCamp and share at a WordCamp. And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And even go to other events. There are other technology events happening all over the world. And there's also a lot of blogging conferences and like writing conferences. So maybe go and speak there. What's stopping you? Is it just fear? Because I know it's hard at the beginning, but we're all here to support each other. I really want to know how you did X, so I make sure that I also either do it the same way or do it differently. There are also some sister projects to WordPress. There's GlotPress, which is the tool that we use to actually make translations for WordPress. There's BuddyPress, which makes WordPress into a social network, and BBPress, which turns WordPress into a forum. These are also all open source projects, and they also need designers, users, developers, everybody to get in and help make them better. So, what's next? Contribution days. In fact, this is something that was so close to my heart after WordCamp London. I ran up to Mike Nillel and declared, we're going to do a contributor day at our local user group. And Mike said, okay, fine, you can organize it. And then I started my first contributor day on my own. There's a group of 30 of us, and we just found a room in Manchester which had good Wi-Fi and had a roof over our heads because it's Manchester, it always rains. And we got together and we just tried to support each other as we contributed back to WordPress. Not many of us knew what we were doing, but because we were in the same room together, we could bring in all our different expertise and actually say, oh, I know how to fix this. I understand that problem. Have you tried this? And it was all those people together that made the contribution day successful. We're going to have one tomorrow. It's going to start at 11 o'clock till dinner. And it's going to be at Connect, at that location, which I can't pronounce. What we're going to do when we get there is we're going to go to make.wordpress.org. And we're going to pick a group. just one group at a time. And we're going to split you into groups, because what that means is that people of the same interest can work together. We're going to go through some documentation. It's in the handbook or the Get Involved section, because different groups like to call it different things, but I won't go into that. There is a page called Getting Started at a Contributor Day. If there's nothing else that happens tomorrow, then if we get you set up for the next Contributor Day that you will do together, then that'd be great. It is in English, but there will be lots of people around to help. We're also going to get on Slack. So Slack is a program for asynchronous chatting. So it's like not always at the same time. It's kind of like Skype, but bigger. And that's where everyone who contributes to WordPress project hangs out. So depending on what team you have, there's a room inside, and you can go to that room and talk to people. So we're going to also do that tomorrow. And we're going to get contributing. We're going to try and find things that we want to improve, or we want to fix, or we just want to test. 4.2 is just about, I think it's in release candidate 1 at the moment, which means that it's nearly being dropped, being released. Now, if there's any bugs or anything, it'd be great to test them. I want to leave you with a few thoughts. Please remember, we are all part of this community. No one company, no one person owns WordPress. It's everybody's. And so we all have an obligation to make sure that it is stable and strong. If you're not sure about something, ask. Ask me, ask the person sat next to you, ask the person behind you. Every single person in this room will have different expertise. And if we group them together, we'll be stronger as a collective. And there is no such thing as a stupid question. Zero thing such as a stupid question. Every question is valid. And if you're thinking it, then another 5 people are probably thinking the same question. Also, feel free to switch between groups. Just because at the beginning you think, oh, I want to be part of the accessibility team, and then you want to then move to something else, that's okay. Most people will jump as they want to learn new things. And most importantly, don't forget time zone differences. Us Europeans are blessed with the fact that the majority of us are in 3 different time zones, and it's only 2 hours apart from one end to the other. But the reality of it is WordPress is a global project, which means that we have people in America and also people in Asia, and South Africa, the rest of Africa, and all the other continents across the globe. Time zones really matter. So if you don't get an answer straight away, be patient, but be persistent. Make sure if you don't get an answer, ask again until you get that answer. I challenge you. Let's share the knowledge that each and one of us has inside us so that other people can learn from us as well. And let's contribute back to WordPress. Make it the strong platform it can be. And let's help build and sustain the Slovakian community. So next year, there will be 2 WordCamps, or maybe 5 user groups. It's totally up to you. What is it that you want this Slovakian WordPress community to look like? It's your job, and it's in your power to actually make it that. So please, get contributing. Thank you. So any questions?
So you mentioned GlotPress. Is that super complicated to get started? How do I add a translation?
If you want to add a translation, you're actually part of the Polyglot team, not part of GlotPress. So GlotPress is just for actually making the tool the Polyglot team uses better. Is it super hard to get as part of the GlotPress team? To be honest, I hope not. I've never been part of the GlotPress team. I'm part of the community team. But if you try and be part of the GlotPress team and there are issues, then let the community team know. And what we do is we go to the rest of the team and say, hey, your documentation's really bad. We need you to fix this. Please fix it. and then we remind them until it's fixed, and then we tell you when it's fixed. So we can work together to make that documentation better for everyone. Great.
Jenny, I may have a question as well. When I want to start a meetings on a regular basis, what are your best techniques or your suggestions how to start a meetup on a regular basis?
Okay, so the first thing I would do is actually check your local area to make sure there isn't already a meetup. Because sometimes you think there's no meetup, but you just haven't looked for it. And maybe their marketing is really bad. So you can help them with that. So if there's no local meetup, then the first thing I would do is try and find at least one more person in your local area who's interested in doing a meetup in that location. The reason why is that means at least you know there's at least one more person you are going to meet. And then it's a case of finding a location, maybe a coffee shop or a restaurant or whatever you guys prefer. And then actually setting a time and a date. So I don't know about your culture, but in England, we tend to do them after work, about 1 hour after work. So they start about 6:30, and they're on a work day. So people finish work, and then it's kind of near where all the offices are, so it's central to the location. And then people will go there, have dinner, have something to drink, and then talk to each other. You don't need speakers. You can just chat. If you do want speakers, then that's something that you can bring in later as you bring people on. Now, I understand that Twitter is not very popular in Slovakia, but I'm assuming you all have a favorite social media, maybe Facebook. Yeah, some people are nodding. So make a Facebook page and a Facebook group, and then tell all the other Slovakian communities about it. So you tell the Bratislavan community, you tell them, can you just send this to everybody to make sure that everyone knows about this, that we can try and help each other, and ask people. The other thing you can do is if you know there's particular companies who have lots of WordPress people or they do WordPress, invite them along as well and say, hey, I'm starting this up. You know, we would love to see you there, and just really getting the information there out as much as possible.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
I want to ask if you use something other than Slack to communicate with people, or if you have some kind of useful tools to get around people and to share the knowledge.
So the WordPress.org Slack channel is purely for people contributing back to the actual WordPress project, the core epicenter of it. When it comes to communities, there's a bit of fuzziness whether we can use that Slack channel. And the response we've gotten so far is no, because there would be too many channels. Imagine all user groups, WordCamps in that one channel. It'd be very, very noisy. And that would require a lot of server power also. So you can use Facebook for that, I guess, or use some other method. I've seen in other countries, they've created their own local Slack channel. So maybe it's like, the example for here would be WordPress Slovakian.slack.com or something. But someone has to create that. It's a question of how you all want to work together and what works for your culture. I wouldn't say that what works in the States or in England works everywhere. I know that the Japanese community all use Facebook because that's the epicenter that they all prefer. So they just use Facebook and use Facebook comments to organize things. I know that also Peter has been trying to get the Slovakian Rosetta site back up. It's got a lot of spam in it, so the meta team are cleaning it up, get rid of everything, updating it all, ready for you guys to use. I'm not sure when that will be ready, but you can use the Rosetta site. That will have a forum on there, so you can actually have Slovakian WordPress support on there, which will be in the Slovakian language. I'm not sure when the due date for that is, but hopefully soon. I'm sure it will be tweeted out when it's ready, or communicated in whichever form is popular here.
I have one question.
Sure.
Firstly, thank you for a really motivating presentation.
Thank you.
about community involvement. I see it in a different way in the building bicycle community in Bratislava. Right. Anyway, my question is, if somebody behind the WordPress communities tries to contact bigger companies or corporation and try to set up some kind of contribution day inside the corporations, which will be something like team building, or you know what I mean?
Sure. I haven't. WordPress people don't tend to go into corporations. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's not absolutely true. Maybe companies, because most of the active people here in Bratislava are from Webicon, which is one company, which is, yeah, it's open company, but it's still company. And there are many hackathons and many days like this, which is kind of benefit from the employer. And maybe it can be a good idea to contact the other bigger companies, because right now there is a presentation in next room, everybody is listening about WordPress, and I think this one is the must presentation for all the WordPress people here, which are just using the system and never contributed.
Sure, yeah. So the thing is, in every country there will be particular companies which do a lot towards the WordPress project. Human Made is one of those companies in the UK. And it's partly to do with the fact that our culture as a company means that we try and encourage our employees to go out and help the larger WordPress community. That's why I'm here today. If you feel like one particular company is taking over, I would say you're wrong, because when I spoke to the guys from that company you mentioned, they actually want other people to come and help organize things. They don't want it to just be them. So if you feel like you can go to the company and say, hey, I also want to help organize things, that's great. It helps distribute and limit the buzz factor for organizing events in this region. If you know of a particular company which is doing this, then I really encourage you to contact them and take that willingness to want to do something and say, hey, I want to do this, will you support me? And most of the time they're going to say yes. Now, I understand that sometimes a company might say no, and it's usually because they are trying to brand themselves as the location to go to. But if you are part of the WordPress project, then you should understand one thing and one thing only. This is an open source community, and with open source communities, everyone has a say in it. Regardless of who you are, or if you're a hobbyist, or if you're actually working and being employed to use WordPress, you have a say in it, because you're a WordPress user. By that nature, if you want to do something and you have issues, then there are the larger community globally that can help you with that. But I would say try and talk to them first, and if you come up with any issues, then come on the community Slack, on the Slack channel, and there's actually outreach and events rooms where you can actually talk to people from the WordPress Foundation, and they will try and resolve these issues. But from what I've seen with the Bratislavan team is that they really, really want other people to come and help. I asked them if there was a few things that you would want me to try and encourage people to do. They said the number one thing was community. They need other people to come and help them do things, because the reality of it is, if that one company is doing everything, then are they actually getting work done? So it would be nice if it just spread the workload.
Okay, guys, thank you, Jenny, for the answer. I'm afraid this was the last question, because we have to have a lunch. Thank you, Jenny, for your contribution. Thank you so much. This was Jenny. Wong, thank you.
Thanks.